business information sessions where many of the businesses were able to participate and answer questions, concerns they had. In that business information sessions, we were able to provide the businesses with the information on what they are able to do and not do. And just as a review to the ANC, the businesses are able to offer business specials in front of their businesses that they're also able to activate space on the street adjacent to businesses such as streeteries, gaming, demonstration displays, merchandise and music, but the music cannot be amplified. And then the structure must be no greater than 10 feet by 10 feet and cannot be asphyxiated on the ground. And then set up, of course, for the businesses will be from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And then takedown will be anytime before 3, which is when Open Street ends. And so the deadline for the businesses to apply to participate in the Open Street, it was August 31st, and we did receive many applications, and we have been in touch with the applicants who were interested, or the businesses who were interested in participating and activating in front of their businesses. And we are walking them through any additional steps or questions that they may have through their application. We are now in September where we're ramping up a lot of the residential outreach. So that includes attended all ANC, civic association meetings, and also we're going to do a mass door knocking or flyer dropping at each impacted home. So that includes a block or two from Georgia Ave on each side. And so that is going to be done around mid-September. And we're happy to continue to keep the ANC updated on what that residential outreach looked like. We also dropped off a couple of flyers and information to schools, libraries, and rec centers, just to make sure that everyone is in communications in regards to open streets, and we're able to spread the word out. Additionally, last thing I have to say is that we are looking for volunteers. Anyone interested in helping on the day of Open Street, you can offer at least 2-3 hours of time during Open Street to help us out. That's fine, even if it's just an hour, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. We're asking for volunteers, and so I'm gonna drop a sign up link. If any residents are interested, please sign up. If any ANC members are interested, please sign up. If you guys can share this link as well, that would be greatly appreciated. And we'll be in contact with the volunteers. As volunteers, you'll receive a free Open Street t-shirt, which is awesome. You'll get to wear a t-shirt. And you'll also get an annual membership to Capital Bike Share. That is, I think that should be, I should have started with that, right? So if you are interested, again, please sign up and we'll be in contact with you. And I will take any questions, concerns that you may have now.
So we can go ahead and start with commissioners for any questions that you may have, and then we will open it up to the community.
I'll just jump in, not with a question, but more with a statement of support from Commissioner Ewert, who couldn't be here tonight, but he chairs our transportation committee, and he's really excited for this. I know it's our second annual in DC, so I hope that it continues. And last year we had kind of a small presence as a full ANC on behalf of the Public Safety Community Engagement Committee, and we plan to do the same this year. So Syra, I'll be sure to get in touch with you about placement of a table or where we could be most useful as well. But that is just what I wanted to add to the conversation. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I hope you have my contact information. Otherwise, I'm happy to send it over to you, but you can feel free to send it over to get in touch with me about the table, and we're happy to accommodate you. We were already planning on offering ANC for B, and I'm sorry, for 1A. I work with
Yes.
Ward 4 too much. So I'll be happy to stay in contact with you.
Okay,
And
perfect.
thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Can you just
Do
repeat
you have any other
the
questions?
date and
It's
when-
October 2nd,
October,
10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
that's Saturday?
Yes, sir. That is a Saturday.
Any other questions? I have a couple, but anyone else? Okay. I'm wondering, so this is specifically for Georgia Avenue, correct?
Yes, Commissioner. This specific event is for Georgia Ave. However, the mayor did, as you might have seen, she included in her budget to have open streets throughout the city, and that's they're gonna come this now we're in this new budget season, so they're gonna come sometime next fall. I'm sorry, spring. If that was your question, or is your question more so is it going to impact any other street?
Maybe not so much impact, but just wondering, is there, a publicized schedule for open streets? And then how can community members advocate for open streets on their own street?
Yeah, I missed the first question, but definitely as we move to include other open streets throughout the city, they're going to be smaller open streets, not this long of a stretch. And so during those smaller open street events, members of the community, ANCs, bids, or so on, can advocate for an area in their ward to have an open streets. We're putting together kind of like the guidelines and how those are gonna look like, or that process is gonna look like as we once we move away from this open street, because this open street takes a lot of coordination and effort. And so right now we're concentrating on getting things ready for this open street. And once we're done with this one, then we're gonna start putting together the guidelines and implementations for the smaller ones. The other one that's gonna be big is the one on Florida Ave, and that's gonna be also next year. So there are going to be more open street engagement and opportunities for community members. And so again, I'm happy to continue to work with Cynthia to keep the ANC in touch on how the community can further participate in open streets. And this question is awesome to me and great, because I feel like the community is really in support of open streets and wants to see more open streets, which is great. That's what we want to hear. So I'm happy to continue to engage with you.
Well, there are some downsides to it as well. We do need to understand what is going to happen to the buses, where they're going to run, where will the stops be as alternate sites, how will people who are dependent on the buses for things other that they need to get to work and things during that Saturday. Also, what is going to be the impact on residential parking, which is already very crowded, especially with students coming back, and what's enforcement going to be? If you can tell us the plans for those items.
Yes, definitely. So we have been working with WMATA on putting together the reroutes for the buses. And that is a WMATA thing where they decide what that reroute looks like. What we've been told so far from WMATA is that the reroute for the buses are going to be exactly the same as in 2019. What DDOT is planning on doing is partnering up with WMATA, exactly as we did in 2019, and printing out the detour signs for the buses and posting them up on the detour bus stops and the temporary bus stops and the current bus stops to let residents know of the detour. So we're going to be posting those signs up 1 week prior to Open Street. So sometime like September, I think the 20th, the week of the September 20th, we'll be going out to post those signs.
And how many weeks out is this?
Is that enough time? Is that enough time?
Not at all.
I don't think so. I think if people are working or, you know, have anything going on the first weekend of October, especially if this is already planned, is there any way you can put those signs out sooner, like now?
Yeah, so those signs have to come from WMATA, and we've been waiting for WMATA to send us those signs. I was just in contact with them, and they said they're working on them. And so the time frame for us, we were told that we can place them a week before the event, which also happens and just throughout big, large events throughout the city. Standard is a week prior. And that's what we're trying to also do residential outreach. So for example, what my plan is to do residential outreach, and I'll tell you the dates because I was just putting this together today. So residential outreach is going to happen on 2 weeks prior to Open Street. So that's going to be the week of September 13th. Then after that, so that means all the impacted homes, right? Residents. That includes condos, everything, everybody throughout the route and 2 blocks within on Georgia Ave. They're going to get a flyer notice saying Open Street's coming. And so that's going to happen the week of September 13th. And then we are planning on posting the detour signs for WMATA's detour signs up on the week of September 20th. And so I understand the aspect of you know, getting the word out soon, and that's why we have been trying to notify as many people as we could since July. We've been we sent out a press release announcing Open Streets. We went out to all the ANCs. We've engaged with a couple of seniors and civic associations, and we are again engaging with the ANC, and that's why we're also going out door knocking, door to door to those homes that are near the route of the event to notify them. If there is any possibility that I can go out ahead of time, like a few days before, when I was planning on putting the detour signs, I will, and I will let the ANC know. But that's what I was planning in regards to just posting the things and sending out information.
Thanks, Syra. And I think Commissioner Turner and Commissioner Harris bring up a good point. Is there a contact at WMATA that maybe we could also get in touch with that you are talking to about this route and the changes happening? Perhaps we have some additional pressure from multiple ANCs. They'd be able to get the timeline maybe moved up by a week or a few days at least.
Yeah, so I can reach out to the WMATA contact and let them know that the ANC is interested in engaging with them and putting you guys in contact. Again, they stated that they're working on these signs, and the route is going to be exactly the same as in 2019. So they're going to get those signs to us as soon as possible, and then depending on how it looks, because it's I'm putting together the outreach, and so the outreach it takes a lot, and so And so like just for the residential outreach, we'll need over 15 individuals to help, right? Because I can't do it all by myself, and just even posting the signs. So even if you'd like to volunteer and do some outreach with us, that would help as well. And anything that we can do to get the word out to the residents. I live a block away. I live on Columbia Road and 11th. And so my mom uses transportation. I use transportation. So I know how critical it is for us to get the word out, and especially to those communities that don't necessarily speak English, right? Like that's my concern. Like my mom doesn't speak English, and I want to make sure that the residents like her are also obtaining the information.
Syra, I'm just going to make a follow-up comment to what's been said, just to reiterate that, how do I say this? I participated in the last one, which I was pretty surprised at how successful it was, since I thought it was going to bomb out. So kudos for having that. But I just want to state, I live on one of the streets that abuts Georgia Avenue. I live about six, 7 houses down from Georgia. So I'm in the area that you should be flyering. And the last time that they flyered, they just dropped everything on the bottom step of the walkways. So half of them got blown away, and I don't think it was proper notification. I just think that you need to be aware that on some of these blocks, specifically my block and a couple of other blocks off of Georgia Avenue, it's quite a hike to get from the street to the house. And if you're going to flyer them, you need to have people that are willing to walk upstairs and actually deliver the flyer to the door, so it gets to the proper people, because the last time it was not done very well.
Yes, thank you so much for that feedback. That is definitely the instructions that I'm providing, because again, I'm leading the efforts on outreach. And so I'm making sure that all the outreach volunteers that are helping for the residential outreach are dropping the flyer off to the door of each residence. But I do appreciate that feedback.
Just one final question, and then we'll move to the community. I don't believe you mentioned this, but are there any plans to add temporary bike lanes to streets connecting to Georgia Avenue to increase safety for people attending the event on bike?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. I do think that somebody from your ANC, a commissioner from your ANC asked that question during the business outreach. And so at the moment, we don't have any plans to do any temporary bike lanes to the connecting Georgia Ave. But it is something that if it's of interest to the community, we can take it into account for future open streets on Georgia Ave.
Oh, Sable, we can't hear you for some reason.
Yeah, Sable, you're still muted. We can't hear you.
We just can't hear you. But I think that I can hear Dan.
I can hear you. I can hear Amanda.
Okay,
Sable.
I'll put it in the chat.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I still don't know what's happening. I can't hear you all. But I think Commissioner Farnan, can you ask the question here from the community while I figure out my sound?
Yes, yes. So thank you, Tamar. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your first name. Just talking about college students traveling along the route. So I think Syra, it would be great if we can engage specifically Howard University, which will have students along the route, and talking about flyering in their own community. But then also, I don't know if you will be engaging them to have a table, or perhaps opening up some of their properties for use along the Georgia Ave. So that just could be a great opportunity for engagement, but I think it's definitely a valid question for students who rely on that street for their traveling. So Syra, I can definitely take that on as something that I will follow up with you on for Howard University, as I have some of their buildings in my district for sure.
Well, yes, definitely. We would appreciate any engagement help that we can get. I can tell you that we have been engaging with Howard University in regards to how they can participate, because last year they did participate in the event. I'm not sure if you are aware, but Howard is also having a game that day, their first game. So they may be a little occupied with their own events happening, but we're trying to actively coordinate to make sure that both events do not impact each other, and that we're working together towards both of our efforts. But I'm definitely happy to stay in touch with you and how we can engage the students.
Okay, great. So then we'll have to figure out just some traffic parking plans for sure. And then Commissioner Harris, I don't know if you can hear us again, but I
can. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
It's lighting up. Sorry about that. I don't know what is going on. We did have a comment in here, a suggestion for WMATA, specifically kind of on the bus routes, and I think it's a good suggestion. Will there be any type of, I guess, supervisors or anyone out there to redirect people who end up at the wrong bus stops? How can DDOT help support that, or how can you encourage WMATA to do some further kind of mitigation on any problems that might surface during open streets?
Yeah, that is a great point, and I'm happy to take it back to the WMATA team and to DDOT team to see how we can coordinate and best inform any users of the public transportation service on whether they're at the wrong bus stop or exactly what the bus route will be.
When you talk to them about that, you might ask them, because I think if I remember correctly, they had something set up at either end of the open streets for where the buses started to change routes. They had supervisors or somebody at either end to start. I don't think they had them all along the routes because there were signs, but I do remember them doing something at either end of the start and stop of the open street on Georgia. So you might want to just double check with them on that.
Okay, sounds good. I can definitely do that. I can double check with them. What they said when we reached out to them was that they're willing to provide the kind of like the same support that they provided in 2019, or further assist in any capacity that they can during the open street event. So I'll definitely reach out to them, let them know of the ANC feedback, and also let them know that the ANC would like to be in contact with them just in case you guys have any additional questions, concerns, and make that connection for you guys.
Great. I think that's it. We will be sure to share Syra and Cynthia's information in the chat. If you all have any questions, thank you, Cynthia, for putting that in. But yeah, thank you for joining us tonight and giving us a little bit more background on open streets.
Yeah, and anytime. And please, just another touch is if you'd like to volunteer, again, you'll get a free shirt in a Capital Bike Share membership for free. So I did drop the link. So if you are interested, please sign up. And thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'll call our our official meeting to order. It's this is our September meeting, and we're meeting via virtual Zoom. Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Yes. Commissioner Handerhan. Commissioner Orlowski.
Present.
Commissioner Umar.
Present.
Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Sanchez.
Present.
Commissioner Floyd. Commissioner Ewart. Commissioner Baina. Commissioner Turner.
Present.
Commissioner Farnan.
Present.
Commissioner Harris, present. We have a quorum of 7 of 11.
Thank you. Commissioners, you have an agenda before you. Without objection, we'll approve the agenda. On the agenda is a consent agenda with the August minutes. Without objection, we'll approve the consent agenda. Madam Treasurer, if you'll give reports for the financials.
Okay, we have a few items on the financial side of things. So just starting off with the fiscal year 2021 quarter 3 financial report. So the balance that we had starting forward was $153,772.09. We had not received any allotments in that quarter, so we were still cleaning up from the previous QFRs when we transitioned treasurers. So no allotments yet. Disbursements, we had $805.60 in office supplies, equipment, printing. We had $1,500 in purchase of service and another $1,500 in others. Those were some of the sponsorships that we had given out. So total disbursements for the quarter was $3,805.60, with our ending balance being $149,966.49. So that is the quarter 3 financial report. And then looking ahead to the 2022 budget, we do have a draft budget that is going to remain the same as last year. So we're anticipating allotments to remain the same. So that should be giving us it'll be $31,677 in allotments from the district this year. So we're looking, just briefly going through the categories, we're looking at about $1,100 in communications, about $3,500 for office supplies, equipment, printing, $22,000 for purchase of service. And then in kind of the catch-all other category, we're looking at about $4,200 and then about $300 worth of bank charges. So that'll bring our total budget for the year anticipated at $31,100. So that is the upcoming outlook for our budget for next year. The fiscal year will start in October. If there are not any questions on that, just one other thing on the financial side that I would highlight. We did get the 2019 fiscal year annual report on the ANCs. So just a few points from that I wanted to highlight. Overall, the ANCs in 2019 received a total of $596,113 out of a possible $677,688 that was available to the ANCs. Not all of the ANCs got the full allotments, either out of late reports or other unapproved financials. But the ANCs did spend a total of just over $600,000 in their communities, particularly $616,180. So based on the ANC's review of 2019 QFRs, most ANCs did make a concerted effort to comply. they would still encourage that ANCs adopt better controls and procedures to incorporate corrections to their quarterly financial reports to make sure that they're receiving the full allotments. So there is a full breakdown that shows difference between 2018 and 2019 fiscal years, if anyone's interested in that. But overall, that's just kind of an overall picture of the ANCs and the money going in and out overall. So any questions, or happy to move us along?
Madam Treasurer, would you like to make a motion to approve the two items? You can do them together.
All right, sure. Make a motion to approve the fiscal year 21 quarter 3 financial report and the draft 2022 budget.
For a second.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez, update on the Education Committee Task Force.
This is quick. We did not meet in August, so nothing significant to report from the committee. Thanks.
Thank you. Short-term family housing, I believe we have Dorothy Dupins, who is joining us from the Terrell. If you could just turn her audio on.
Yep, Ms. Stevens, you should be able to take yourself off of mute.
Unmute. Good evening. I'm Dorothy Duppins, the social worker at the Terrell. How's everyone tonight?
Great. Thanks for being here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I just started as a social worker about maybe 3 weeks ago, so I'm happy to work with you all and in the community and all these other things. So thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question on how things are going in your 3 weeks? Have you seen full capacity at the Terrell, or are people coming in?
People are coming in. Currently, we have 10 families. I don't know how many children, but I know some families have as much as 6 children. We are getting ready to open up the permanent housing facility for the adult females. So I think we have a couple of residents that are coming into there. But we gave them out book packs for school and things like that. Everybody's registered for school and on their way to school nicely so far in the first couple of days. So far, everything is smooth.
That's great.
Is there anything that we as a commission can help with? Any donations? Any kind of types of events we can help organize?
Well, I definitely will discuss that with our program director, Ron Parker, and donations, we'll accept all donations of any kind. And I just will communicate that back with you.
Great,
we appreciate
thank you.
that. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Public
Thank
safety
you.
and community engagement.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dorothy. Really helpful. Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner. I think I see we have Lieutenant Markowitz on, so I will let him do his updates first. And thank you for joining us. I know he's had an evening this evening.
It's been an interesting evening. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to be here, of course. The overview, crime is, we're still adjusting the post-COVID world, and the numbers are kind of deceptive, like last year compared to this year, because there's far more people out this summer. But the numbers are generally on par with pre-COVID numbers. So we're doing all right there. I think the biggest complaint that we're seeing from community members, and you may have that in 1B, is ATVs. It has been a deceptively hard problem to deal with. We're trying a couple new things to try and combat it. The problem with the ATVs is we have to take into account the law, for one, our department regulations, which say we can't chase them. and the public safety of everybody, to include the riders that are breaking the law. They unfortunately tend to bait officers into conflict and interaction. Since I've been on the police, I've been doing this for now 15 years. We had to deal with a lot of ATV issues when I was east of the river in the 6th district. And it's really frustrating because you try to stop them, you try to make it hard for them to get gas. Our new attempt is to focus on gas stations and try and make apprehensions there. And again, deceptively hard. They are very quick and they far outnumber us. But we are trying to change our tactics up a little bit and see what we can do. We have made some ATV recoveries. We've made a couple arrests. But when you look at how many ATVs are out there on the street, it's a very small fraction of, I think, the larger problem. But I say this to convey that we know the community has a large concern with it. We're trying. One of the other realities that we face is the current law in the district does not really deter ATV usage. It essentially amounts to a fine if you get caught. So one of the other ways we deal with the ATVs, and this has led to us actually making arrests, is we get our intel unit out there. We take photos of the operators of the ATV, and we put together a massive book of all the good identifications we have. If someone has a helmet and a mask and stuff on, you're never going to necessarily identify that person. But there are a lot of people that are out there just with their face exposed. So we do a book, and a lot of these officers, a lot of people are known to have ATVs, and they pop up repeatedly on our radar, and they pop up in the bolos, the be on the lookout flyers, and we're able to do arrest warrants for them. And that is the safer way to kind of bring criminal charges than get into a large confrontation on the street. When we try to make arrests, they do become assaultive. We have an officer that's out with a broken leg right now that was run over by an ATV. It is a really frustrating and large problem. But we're working within our parameters, and we're doing what we can. I ask just people to be patient. It's one of those things that's going to be it's turned into it's not just a DC thing. It's in a lot of major cities across the country, but obviously it's very centralized in DC along U Street, and 14th Street is, I think, the predominant where we get the most complaints.
Why do you think that is? Why is it concentrated?
My personal belief is because they seem to thrive on the attention of the crowd, which is why they do like the showboating and the stunts in the middle of the street. And U Street is huge for nightlife, and there's already a ton of people out there. So it's a perfect place for them to gather these crowds. And they also know where there's crowds like that, the police are even more limited in what they can safely do, because the last thing we want is a pedestrian to get run over, because they'll drive on the sidewalk to get away from us. They'll jump over curbs. So yeah, I see 9th Street as well. I only bring up 14th and U. We know it's a bigger problem. Like 9th Street is part of the club zone, U Street, up and down 14th Street, but I think it's related to the audience that's out there.
I think there's certainly, it's a multi-layer kind of issue and multi-layer solution. I appreciate your efforts on it and appreciate you abiding by the no chase policy, because I think we've seen a couple of DC residents who have been killed due to MPD chasing them. So I think that is really important to keep in mind, because people want a very quick solution, but there isn't one. I am wondering, I have a two-parter question of one. Sure. I've heard this time and time again, but I think it's worth repeating. What can the community do to kind of help you all identify, or, when they're seeing something, what should they do? And then, I have noticed that the groups of ATVs have either kind of dispersed. So I remember a couple years back, I knew on Sundays that it would be, dozens of ATV operators and dirt bikes kind of coming down either 14th or U Street. And I remember seeing MPD helping to kind of guide traffic and block off roads. I'm wondering, why isn't that being done now? Is it because the groups are smaller? And do you have any plans on doing that in the future to help pedestrian safety and other vehicle and other kind of options to keep people safe?
So the first part, you may have to remind me because my short-term memory is garbage about your second part of your question. So what citizens can do, one of the things is you can always call 911 to report it when you see them, because the earlier, like when we're in areas where we already have a heavy concentration of police officers, and like U Street, we know they're going to show up. But when they're coming into the city or coming into the district, like the 3rd district, sometimes it's good to have that early warning. If you call and say, hey, there's a pack of 20 ATVs northwest bound on Florida Avenue or whatever, like the 700 block of Florida, whatever, that can be helpful. Another great thing that could help us out is if you happen to be in areas and it's pretty non-confrontational, you could always, if you get good photos of the individuals, whether they're just hanging out like on the side of the road, because that's a thing that we've noticed is like sometimes they'll just wait until the police come up and try to do some sort of interdiction, is they'll just be hanging out on the side of the road with their helmets off and all that. If you can get a couple photos as you walk by, you can always text it to 50411, and that gets distributed to everybody and gets forwarded to Intel. And those images are what, like when our Intel does it, those are the things that we identify people on. But they're more, they know to conceal their identities more when the police are around. So that's kind of the catch-22 about that. And back to the traffic and what was happening before. So I don't know really that we were blocking traffic as an agency. I think we were kind of monitoring the ATVs. The reality of this is that as soon as they see a marked police car, they will accelerate and travel faster, and their behavior becomes more dangerous just because of the presence of law enforcement. So sometimes one of the older tactics that we use, and we're discussing the feasibility about this again, is just moderate and traveling with the pack. But when you do that, you prevent them from getting gas, which people start running out of gas, and then you're able to make an apprehension. And it requires an amount of officers to accomplish and some time, because you're going to be driving all over the city. But that's the reality, is if you can prevent them from getting gas, the ATVs will start to run out of fuel, and we can at least recover the ATV. And sometimes we get good with the apprehension of the rider. Sometimes they just leave it.
Have you, so there was a question in the chat from someone, have you engaged with the operators asking, what their motives are? Like, we can assume all day and say, they're showing off, but I've heard from kind of others that say, you know, they're protesting or they're advocating something, have you or any other officers tried to engage in that way to talk with them to understand?
I've talked with some of the people we apprehended. I just came
What
from.
about before you apprehend them? Because they might say something different.
We don't. They're not exactly open with the police prior to apprehension or apprehension efforts. Like as soon as the police pull up in the block, they scatter. They don't try to wait around and see because they know they're already on an illegal vehicle, and odds are there's going to be efforts to apprehend them. And from an optics standpoint, say we go out there and we just try to talk to people, I think a lot of community members would be like, why are they just talking to them and not trying to do anything? I don't think that a lot of people would be really upset by the optics of that. But I think the biggest part is they don't really seem to want to engage with us. Some will talk after apprehension and some will be very, very frank about it.
I'm curious what they said to you after apprehension, even though I do agree with Commissioner Harris, it'll be very different than if they're talking to perhaps somebody like me or her on the street, but I would love to hear.
The showboating, like the kind of the showmanship of it is a big aspect. They do like the attention. The other part is they've kind of turned it into like a community of each other. And that has, in some jurisdictions, they've been like, well, okay, we get that. That's a valid point because everyone should be able to feel like they have a place and a purpose. But like, how can we figure out a way to allow you to have that community, but in a less disruptive way to everyone else, and a less dangerous way, which I think is the disruptions are annoying, but the danger is the bigger issue.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I agree with Commissioner Farna. And I think it's kind of up to us as community leaders to help surface some of that feedback for you all. But I think
I would absolutely welcome that because I realize people respond very differently to a uniform than anyone that's out, even detectives, anyone outside of uniform. So please, if you are able to make contact and get information, share it with me, because even if we're able to creatively talk to some of these groups, which I don't know the feasibility of like what that will be, but to mitigate some of these dangers of riding recklessly on the street, anything will help us try and address this.
Thank you.
I think Commissioner Thomas may have had a question before me, and then I'd love to ask a follow-up question.
And I have other questions too, but on other matters.
We can't, oh.
Oops. I don't think we can't.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh. Commissioner Thomas, do you know if maybe like your sound output is set correctly? I think you can hear us, but we can't hear you.
While we're waiting for her to figure out her sound, since it's taken her a few seconds, Lieutenant, would you just put into the chat your email address? I have an issue that I really want to talk to you on the phone with. That's an ongoing issue that I've been dealing with on my block, and it's going to take way more time than I want to talk about it tonight on this meeting, but I need to get some input from you on how to deal with some of the issues that I'm dealing with ongoing problems on my block that's just getting out of hand.
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. I just typed in my email address. reach out, and I am the watch planner tomorrow, so I'll be at work and we can figure out a time.
Great. And I appreciate you, Patrick, for not taking up too much time on this call. I know Commissioner Harris, you have a few questions that are probably similar to mine, but I'll let you ask those as they're pertinent to your area. But I wanted to raise a few that came up in the Q&A box. I know we have a few Howard University parents on tonight. Some of my updates after my questions will also be pertinent to what they are here to talk about, but one specifically from Miss Ogburn on Howard students, more, of course, all of them returning, which is great. And we welcome them back to the neighborhood. We're really excited to see them around, supporting our local businesses, and also just adding to the liveliness of our community, but specifically Georgia Ave safety. So has there been increased patrols? Is there a way we could request specifically the bike community engagement unit to maybe get to know students who haven't been in DC before? I'd love to hear anything that that has gone on.
Yeah, so Howard actually reached out to us before school got back into session to help with, we kind of call it special attention, which is a little increased love with patrol. And we've been talking with our officers on all the shifts in roll calls, letting them know, hey, there's a lot of 2 years of students that it's going to be their first time on campus, which is going to lead to obviously some growing pains. So we've been trying to convey that information and make people more aware of that. And people have been paying more attention to Georgia Avenue. To my knowledge, we haven't really seen any issues yet, despite the increase of people. But Howard has worked with us very, very well. We have an open dialogue back and forth. And we kind of work with them sometimes issues are brought to their attention, even with people that are staying off campus, just with their students, and they'll reach out to us and we'll work together to find solutions to what's going on.
Okay, great. Do you work with their units or patrol or officers? You call them officers, security officers as well?
They're special police officers. They're a campus police, so they are.
Okay, campus, yeah.
Yeah, they're a law enforcement agency. We don't really necessarily patrol with them, but we do interact very frequently, whether it be check-ins just on campus, and anytime called for an incident at the campus, we work with the officers, the supervisors there, to make sure that everybody gets anything they need, and we're best utilizing the resources, because Howard has obviously different resources than we do.
Yeah.
And to make sure that students are getting their needs met the best we can.
Okay, great. I'll turn it back to Commissioner Harris. Thank you.
So you may know what I might be asking about. So on Tuesday evening, there was the shooting where an officer killed a person. I'm wondering if you have any more information on what was put in the 911 call when I think neighbors nearby saw this person outside on their balcony.
I don't have anything more than what was already released by the chief, that the 911 call stated he was on his balcony with I forget whether the term they use, long gun, but a large weapon.
Which turned out to be an airsoft gun.
Yeah. The chief talked about in his press conference how when the weapon was displayed in that photo, you can see how it has the canister, and there's actually a stock that's below it. There's a magazine and a stock, and the stock was covering the airsoft canister, which makes that type of weapon incredibly difficult to discern whether it's real or fake. They're looking into that's part of the investigation. They're still working through the BWC video to release it.
When will that be released?
I think they have 5 days.
5 days. Yeah.
The,
Unless the family says otherwise.
Yeah, but I think the issue, I think the reason it takes kind of longer is because it's painstaking. I did not learn how painstaking it was to redact kind of the video, like personal identifying information, whether it could be like in your video here, we would have to blur out pieces of artwork, anything that identifies your apartment as your apartment. So that's why video takes a long time, because they have to blur those identifying things.
Sure. I think the community is waiting to see this footage, and I think the timeliness on it is extremely important, since someone was killed and someone who may have been experiencing a mental health crisis. So I think we are waiting to see that. I would hope that you all have, training, and that you can identify weapons. Maybe in the moment it's very tense, but there are other instances with mass shootings and where it's very clear that it is a weapon, a deadly weapon, that those suspects are apprehended without being killed. So I think, I'm very curious to see the body camera footage, as are other community members. I won't take up too much more time. My last question is, what is the standard protocol when a street is blocked under a situation like that? So for instance, that's a pretty busy street. There's huge buildings, residential buildings, where people are trying to get back into their homes. What is that protocol when someone is trying to access their homes, or leave their homes because either they have work or they need to get food?
So that's sort of a case by case, and it depends on the scene, to be honest. Once we get the scene secure, the initial parts of any scene are very chaotic, and our goal is to secure as much and as big an area as possible. Because once we have a crime scene, it's easier to shrink it than it is to expand it, because when you have people, and naturally people come out and line in the scene, it's very difficult, and you tend to lose evidence. So we start bigger, and then we can shrink it in to be less obstructive to the surrounding community. Typically when I'm on scenes, when individuals have to, as long as it's not interfering with a part of the investigation, I will typically walk people or have an officer walk someone through the scene, because I'm pretty practical about it. If it's not costing me anything, or if it's not compromising the integrity of the scene, and we have the time to do it, we will walk you through the scene so you can get around. We try to tell people the best way to go around, because when we do walk people through the scene, it takes up officers, and on scenes where you have high density residential populations, you could be doing that the entire time, and we don't really have the people all the time to be doing that. But we try to work with the buildings to say, hey, you may not be able to come out your front door, but if you come out the back door and you go this way, you can get out just the same.
No, that's good to know. There were certainly a lot of officers out. I think I was actually disappointed with the response of NPD. There was someone who was trying to exit his building to get food for his kids. And I believe it was Officer Rahman, and I can give you his name. But the person was trying to say, hey, am I going to be able to get back to my building? My kids are in there. I'm just trying to get some food. And Officer Rahman proceeded to be pretty aggressive with the gentleman. And I stepped in and said, hey, can he show you his ID? And then Officer Rahman told me to back off and to mind my own business. And I mentioned that I was an advisory neighborhood commissioner, that this person is my constituent, but I was very disappointed in the response, especially since the person who approached was non-confrontational, was simply just asking if he'd be able to get back into his building.
Yeah.
which it was a separate building from the incident that happened.
Yeah. We can talk more about that offline, because I can address that with him as well.
Yeah, and I went on a ride along with him where he conveyed to cadets that it was important to engage with the community, but this reaction was the exact opposite of what he was preaching to cadets.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And we can follow up about that later and figure out what you think the best way to deal with that is.
No, I appreciate you going through the protocol. I think that's the best in terms of transparency for the community and knowing kind of how they can navigate some of these really tough situations. So thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Harris. Of course, those were a lot of my questions as well. I think we've got some great transparent answers, and yeah, just the body worn camera footage. Of course, the community needs to see that with the family's consent. But in the chat as well, Commissioner Thomas, I think you might have the same question on an update of a shooting that happened in our community on that same area, but a community member shooting. So that was probably 4 or 5 weeks ago now. That happened right on B Street, and as a member of our community, we held a vigil for him. And I don't want to say his name in case folks don't want his name shared, but do you know which I'm talking about, right on B Street?
Yes, the almost near the police involved shooting. Yes.
Yeah.
So what was your question about it? Sorry.
Just if there's an update on any like investigation that's ongoing, or if it's been linked to any other shootings that have happened in our neighboring areas or anything at all.
The homicide detectives, I can't share, of course,
right,
the details of it. They're looking into active leads, but they're still working the investigation. They do have things to go on.
Okay, that's good to hear. Great. And then I think that some community members might have questions. If we do have a September 9th Public Safety Community Engagement Committee meeting next week. So thank you to Lieutenant who will be there, as well as a member of his ATV task force in I don't know if he's in the 3rd district, but another lieutenant will also be there to talk specifically about ATV concerns. But I think we could have time, Chair Turner, if that's okay, for like 2 questions from the community of NPD. So if any community members want to raise their hands, I'm sure our Commissioner Harris would be able to allow you to speak.
Yep, and to raise your hand, it's just on the bottom kind of toolbar. Okay, I see someone right here. So Ms. Westbrook, I'm going to allow you to talk. You can go ahead and take yourself off of mute.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing us to participate tonight. My name is Stacey Westbrook. My daughter is a freshman attending Howard University, and I, having worked in law enforcement, specifically in the area of community engagement, understand about the special attention and some of the other tools that officers will use to try to decrease crime. What seems to be happening at Howard, obviously there's a gap with communication from the students, whether they be new or returning students, and some of the issues that they're experiencing on Georgia Avenue. And so specifically, can we get a commitment from you this evening? The kids are experiencing problems with vagrants and alleged exposing situations. And there was also an alleged, I don't want to say robbery because I'm not sure if a weapon was used, but people approaching children, or they're not children, kids at night around 10:30, 11-ish, trying to, get belongings or accosting them. Like I said, during the daytime, there are some exposing issues. I do realize that you guys partner with Howard, but Georgia Avenue is your primarily, your responsibility. So is there any way that you can increase patrols through the evening hours? Because our children, our young people are not seeing an increased presence along Georgia Avenue, and there is some concern from parents with that regard.
Yeah, an important aspect of that, an important piece of that puzzle is what people don't tell us, we don't know.
Absolutely, I understand that. I worked in law enforcement, so I get it. that's why I'm asking you is, can we get a commitment? Because we're actually here vocalizing some of those concerns.
Well,
Just the same reason why the young people won't talk to you in uniform with the ATVs, or the same reason why the young students at Howard may not approach officers in uniform in the evening. So all we're trying to do is just trying to see if we can get some collaboration with that.
Yeah, I'm not saying they necessarily need to approach officers, but if there's someone exposing themselves, they can easily call 911, and
Absolutely.
they don't get interviewed by MPD. The deployment of officers is driven by
Calls for service.
And if we had in a nearby community, we recently had this issue where the community members had this issue that was very important to them, but we're not conveying it, and not like when we look up the calls for service, they just there.
Right.
And I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
I totally understand. Again, I've worked in law enforcement, so I understand where you're going with that. And that's something we're also going to try to address with the students. But I'm asking is, what is the method that you guys use to ask for a special attention? And then also, is there a business improvement district that you guys partner with, or a business watch group where you can also bring this to the attention of some of the business owners so they can also kind of be responsible business owners in the area?
Yeah, we have a couple units. In the 3rd district, we have our own mountain bike unit. We have the citywide community engagement bike unit. And then we obviously have patrol officers, some of which are more community focused. I have had very good results in just talking with my officers and conveying the concerns. I have a lot of very motivated officers that all I need to do is be like, hey, I have this problem. And they will immediately the next day or that day go out and try and solve it and spend weeks trying to deal with the problem. Up at 14th and Park Road, I have a couple of really outstanding officers that have worked with issues up there. With the community engagement team, they are sort of geared towards more violent crimes.
Okay.
So we can request them, but we have to be cognizant about pulling resources from communities that are seeing very serious crimes for quality of life crimes.
No, absolutely. I understand that. I just, if there's any kind of way, one of the questions I wanted to ask, you mentioned about your UPB officers. I'm assuming your mountain bike officers and your community engagement bike officers are not patrolling at night due to officer safety reasons, right? They don't want to be on their bikes patrolling in that sense.
About midnight.
Okay. So is there any kind of way that just for the hours between maybe 8 and midnight, we can have some extra patrols just through that area just to see if they see anything that's suspicious in nature?
Yeah, I'm going to talk with the mountain bike supervisor, and I also got to talk to the manager who oversees the mountain bike unit to make sure.
That would be awesome, Lieutenant. Thank you so much. And you're the watch commander. So what's your structure? Is it a captain, then yourself, then sergeants, or?
So we have officer, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, commander. The commander's in charge of the district. I'm not the watch commander every day. Typically on day work on Fridays and Saturdays, I am the only manager in the building.
Okay.
But at least between 2 and 4 days a week, I serve as a watch commander.
Okay.
People that don't know, I'm essentially in charge of the whole shift. I'm a shift commander.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Thanks, Ms. Westbrook.
Ms. Westbrook, before you jump, she already jumped off.
She's still on though. She can hear you.
She's still on.
Okay. I think it might be helpful to the lieutenant if you could. I know that you don't live in the neighborhood, but if you could give him specific streets on Georgia Avenue that are of concern. That's one of the things that I want to talk to him about, because I live 1 block away from Howard, and I've seen an uptick in the students walking around, and the specifics of what I want to talk to him about relate directly to what you're talking about. But if you could tell him specifically which blocks, like between Barry and Euclid or Barry and wherever, that he needs to plan on, because that's really important for him to be able to hose in on.
Don't know.
The final thing I'll say, Justin, just so I can get in right now, is
I think
I'm
it'll
not tomorrow morning
include that next.
go on a trip, so I'm not going to be able to get right back to you until probably midweek next week, but I will touch base with you because there's a lot that I think we need to talk about.
You know where to find me. My next vacation is in November, so I'll be around.
Okay.
Mr. Farnan, there's another.
Commissioner Turner, we lost you for a second, but I think that you're going to say that I can. Okay, you're back. You're back.
You said there were two questions.
Yes, well, I see a question from Ms. Henry, and Ms. Henry, if I can just ask you to be quick on this last question from the community, that would be great, because I just have a few more updates, and then we do have a full public safety meeting on the 9th that we can ask further questions of the lieutenant. But I do want to give you a chance to speak, Ms. Henry, since you were here today. So please go ahead.
Okay, you should be able to take yourself off of mute. Yep, we can hear you.
Me? Awesome. My name is Laura Henry, and I'm also a Howard parent of a sophomore, basically. And I just wanted to piggyback a little bit with what Ms. Westwood was saying, in regards to the extra visibility from law enforcement. We seem to have also complaints from our students of older men hanging around in the sidewalk in front of the buildings where the girls reside. Is there also any type of way that also higher visibility can be put towards that? Because we did speak to Chief Lyles, and he said that that's something that is an MPD control, that it will be in your jurisdiction most likely. So is there any way that that can happen?
Yeah, what's the area again?
It's right in front of Towers, 9th Street. West Tower is the Howard Plaza West and Howard Plaza East.
Yeah, I can.
9th and oh yeah, you got it.
I can with my officers. Yeah, we can definitely make that happen.
We really appreciate that.
Yes, I'm Barry.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks, Ms. Henry, and thanks for being quick. Thanks, Lieutenant, for taking all that. I think it's great that you were here tonight. Okay, and then, so Lieutenant, I'll see you on the 9th. I think that concludes our questions for you and our portion with you, and then I'll just give a quick update for me.
Perfect. So much. Anyone can email me, and I will, again, be there on the 9th. So I look forward to seeing you. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Perfect. And then Chair Turner, promise to be quick on my updates from the committee side of things. So from me, just as I've been alluding to, I'm going to put a message in the chat real quick for everyone here. We are hosting a Public Safety and Community Engagement Committee meeting at Banneker Track, which is actually right across from the towers that Ms. Henry was just speaking about on Berry Place. And we'll just be meeting there. There'll be bleachers kind of where people can sit or people will be able to stand. And we'll have MPD, the lieutenant will be there to give updates. We'll have a lieutenant from MPD's ATV task force. So they'll be speaking specifically to those new kind of ATV mitigation tactics, what the community can do, like sending those pictures to the anonymous tip line and other things like that. And then we will also have our kind of untraditional public safety group called the Collaborative Solutions for Communities. They're our violence interrupter group in the area, and they serve certain specific areas of Ward 1, and I believe this group also serves Ward 4, but we should have 2 to 3 folks from their group at that meeting. So I think it's always great to publicize their involvement, because a lot of people know what violence interrupters are, but a lot of people don't know what they do. So we'll hear from them, and there'll be, of course, robust time for Q&A. And I always love to add, I'm bringing some pizza, so come on down early. We'll start at 6 p.m. on Thursday the 9th, so it should be a good showing. That's my first update. Second one is just another reminder for September 18th. That's on Saturday at also at Banneker Rec Center, but up a little north on the basketball courts. We're having a Hoop for All the Hoop for All Foundation is having a tournament called Hoops for Hope, where they're raising money for cervical cancer research, but also it's just an event that is promoting like health in all ways and community. So these folks who lead the foundation are actually Howard alumni, and they'd love to have any of the parents on here share the information about their event with current students. So I'll send a link to that as well. And then my final bullet on here is just to ask Commissioner Harris for an update on how the kind of Ward 2 public safety meeting went. I know she attended and asked some thoughtful questions at that meeting.
Yeah, it wasn't a Ward 2 safety meeting, although there were more Ward 2 commissioners. It was actually focused along 14th Street.
Great. Yes.
So my SMD borders Ward 2 and several kind of Ward 2 commissions. But the safety meeting, it was good. We tested a hybrid format, so that was interesting. I would encourage community members to I can share the link to the recording, but to reach out to the organizations that were there. So Guns Down Friday, Moms Demand, the Trayvon Center, I'm forgetting a couple, NARC, and there were several others, but they had some great insights and words overall. So I can put the recording in the chat for everyone to see, and highly encourage you to get involved with the organizations that were there.
Okay, great. And Chair Turner, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you all, and hopefully I'll see you on the 9th. There's a link in there to RSVP, but you can also just show up. Thank you.
Maybe Chair Turner's having trouble connecting, but next is ZPD.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Nelson, and I chair the Zoning Preservation and Development Committee. We have 2 items tonight that the commission needs to vote on. First item on the agenda is a property at 611 Florida Avenue Northwest. It's in an MU4 zone. It's in Larry Hanrahan's SMD, which is 1B01. And they are going in front of HPRB. They came before us to ask us to review the concept design for construction of a 4-story plus cellar addition in the rear of the building. And the recommendation from the ZPD is to support the concept and design of the proposed 4-story cellar rear addition at 611, with the inclusion notes to the board of hardy board plank and fiber board exterior on the addition. Changes, if any, to the front facade must be approved by the board, and that a flag test be completed specifically viewed from the 6th Street in the rear. So Larry is not here, so obviously he can't make a recommendation or move a motion. So someone else will have to do that in his behalf if they are.
I can go ahead and do it.
It's for Dan.
So I move that we support provide full agency support for the concept design for the proposed 4-story and cellar rear addition at 611 Florida Avenue to include hardy plank fiberboard exterior, changes to the front facade, and a flag test to be completed specifically from 6th Street in the rear. So I think
Second.
Looks like Chairman Turner is
second from the man.
Having some trouble. So maybe if someone else would like to make the motion, I can take over for him for now and as vice chair.
I think your motion is good, and I seconded you. Yeah. And I seconded you.
Well, I'll have to call for the vote then. And
Oh, great. You can call for the vote.
yeah. So
Wait,
all those in
Chair
favor?
Turner's coming back.
I was coming back.
Nope, go ahead.
I think we lost them.
I'll just go ahead then. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed? See any abstentions? I don't see any.
And
So the motion passes 5-0. So the next one is for me anyway, so I'll jump right in.
and you were abstaining?
You didn't vote.
No, I had to preside over it, so I couldn't vote.
Okay, so I'll just put you as abstaining. Since James can't vote, since he's not connected. Okay, so the second item is property at 1914 9th Street Northwest. It's in an RF1 zone. It's in 1B02, it's Dan Orlesky's SMD, and this is a BZA case. Applicant has requesting a use variance from the use requirements to expand a restaurant onto the second story of a attached two-story basement row house in an RF1 zone at 1914 9th Street. The ZPD committee recommends that the ANC support the use variance for the requirements of establishing a restaurant use on the second story of the two-story row house at 1914 9th Street.
Yeah, so when we discussed this in the committee, it was a conditional vote based on support from the neighbors to the establishment, the direct neighbors on either side. I've since spoken with the owner of the establishment and his neighbors. They all have agreed to support or to at least not oppose the BZA application. This is contingent upon the application being only for the establishment of the restaurant on the second floor and not for the deck part, which they originally had, but then took off. So at this time, I will make a motion that the full ANC support the use variance for the requirements of subtitle U1500.3, subtitle X chapter 10, to expand a restaurant use onto the second story of the attached two-story basement row house in the RF1 zone at premises 1914 9th Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Harris, thank you. All those in favor?
Okay.
Is everyone, all those opposed? None, and I see no abstentions except for Chairman Turner, who's still.
But that would be a not present.
Not present, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's 6 people that are voting. Okay, so that concludes the items on the CPD agenda, and our next meeting will be held on September 20th at 6:30.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. We'll move on to the Economic Development Committee. Do we have someone from Main Street's Lower Georgia Avenue?
Yeah, so Gigi, who is the director for U Street, Main Street, sent over her updates. So I can just give those real quick, and I'll put her information in the chat in case people have questions. But just to start, so U Street, Main Street successfully launched their dog days on August 7th and 8th. Commissioner Harris and I had a nice run-in on 14th Street when we were just walking through the area. So I think it was a success of neighbors being able to visit stores that they may not normally pop into. A lot of stores had, stands out on the sidewalk, and it's called Dog Days because it's meant to be inclusive of our dogs. So that was great and successful, and we'll look forward to next year's Dog Days as well. She will also continue outreach promoting businesses on the corridor. She has a weekly newsletter that goes out and is always promoting different resources, but also new businesses that are opening. She finalized her fiscal year 2022 work plan for U Street, Main Street, and continues strong fundraising campaign for the corridor. There's always some grants available. I believe they come available on a quarterly basis, and then a grant review committee reviews and is able to give those out to businesses along the specific corridor. So that's something that is kind of hyper local and specific to us. Upcoming activities that she has are preparing for her Q4 DSLBD report, which is our government agency on small businesses in the district, submitting her fiscal year 22 work plan, and then a holiday lights sponsorship outreach. So believe it or not, we're in September and we're talking about some holidays. Her biggest current issue, though, that I wanted to focus on tonight is her neighborhood strategy council that she's seeking 4 more members to immediately. So if you'd like to learn more about what the neighborhood strategy council does and how often they meet, what the commitment is, or if you're like, sign me up, I'd love to join, please contact Gigi, and I'll put her email in the chat as well. The strategy council already has, I think, 5 members on it, and they do work from outreach and engagement to grant review and grant setup as well. So that's just something that you all might be interested in. Thank you.
Okay, looks like Chairman Turner's coming back on.
I have returned for some.
All right.
It keeps disconnecting.
Back over. So it looks like there's no new business to discuss with the Economic Development Committee, and the next meeting is to be determined. If you're ready, Chairman Turner, you can jump back in.
Great, Chair Turner, I think we have you.
Okay, did we finish CPD?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we did. We did economic development, so we're up to transportation.
Since Commissioner Ewert isn't with us tonight, did he prep anyone to cover?
Yes, sir. Thanks. He gave me a call and we had a great discussion of this. And I also am on both of these bullet points. If attendees are following along in the transportation section, I'm 1B11. So the circulator extension for DDOT, the Transportation Committee recommended the full ANC support the resolution that is attached in, that is attached in this agenda packet to approve the DC circulator expansion option B for DDOT to explore combining the 2 alignment options and adding a stop at the Whole Foods grocery store on Florida Avenue Northwest to increase public transit to healthy food options. So if folks scroll down on the packet there, you can see what the proposal is for option A versus option B on the circulator expansion. Commissioner Ewert and the Transportation Committee thinks that a combination of the 2 would be best suited, but if there is only if DDOT is only accepting one or the other, option B is the better of the 2. And I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that the full ANC accepts the Transportation Committee's recommendation for this resolution.
Is there a second? We have a second. Discussion? I just one point on this, and I think this goes to a constant problem that I have with DDOT planning, is that here we are doing a wonderful expansion of connecting affluent neighborhoods, but we're not connecting all our neighborhoods in the city. So it's easy to travel with the DC sponsored and paid for public transportation. And it just, the optics are bad and the practice is bad. We need to have more going across U Street in Florida into other neighborhoods so we become more like one community in DC. So that was my soapbox on that one. We have a motion on the table. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner, and I completely agree with your comment. The second bullet on here and the second that requires support, I've been pretty involved with. This TSA request comes from a community member who's been doing the heavy lifting. I believe he's on here tonight. So Santiago, thank you for all your work on this. He's worked with Commissioner Ewert and the full Transportation Committee specifically for the intersection of Florida Avenue and 9th Street, where 9th Street kind of becomes Florida Ave. So this intersection is already getting a revamp from DDOT. They're working. I've seen people out there kind of gathering information, and I believe they have a plan moving forward, but they are still taking recommendations on how we can make this intersection better for both cars, bikes, pedestrians, all of the above who travel in that area. So specifically, the Transportation Committee recommendation would recommend that the full ANC supports the TSA request for the intersection of Florida Ave, 9th Street, and V Street Northwest. I would make a motion that the full ANC supports this.
Commissioner Orlowski, this is in your SMD. Any comment there before? Well, we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. So Commissioner Orlowski, comments.
I agree with what Commissioner Farnan said. I think that this is a intersection that's long overdue for some TLC. It's
To say the least.
it's baffling. It's a baffling that it's gone this long without being addressed. So I'm very much for this study and for changing it, fixing it. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Other comments? All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And the Transportation Committee's next meeting will be Wednesday, September 8th at 7 p.m. So that is via Zoom next week. Thank you.
Thank you. ABR. Is anyone covering for?
Yes, I am. So there's a lot that we need to cover here for ABR. We have a lot of new establishments coming, specifically to 1B12, my district. And we heard from them at our last ABR committee meeting. A lot of these are kind of standard -1, the minus the one, and we'll get into it and I'll let Commissioner Orlowski cover that, is an establishment that is already around. But the first one that we have here is We the Pizza. It is coming to 1301 U Street. It's kind of a little tucked away establishment. It's going to be fast casual. They were able to kind of briefly talk. I believe there is a We the Pizza in a couple different locations. So this is coming to U Street, where Roaming Rooster is, but across of that. So since this is in my SMD, I will go ahead and move that the full ANC support the applicant's request for a stipulated license.
There's no, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Is this for a stipulated and a permanent license or only a stipulated?
Only stipulated.
And this is a CR?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All those in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Abstention. Passes. Thank you.
The next is Medusa Lounge. So before or after our committee meeting, Commissioner Bana was able to get in touch with the owners of Medusa Lounge. So they will be attending the September ABR committee meeting. I know there were some concerns, I believe, by Mr. Nelson about this establishment. So, I think really grateful to have them at our September meeting, but we will be protesting their new license application to keep our standing as a commission. But are there any questions about that, about Medusa
But before we have a motion, let's have Commissioner comment.
Commissioner Bo Luther, if you'd like to comment on this, you can take yourself off mute and just talk about Medusa Lounge, but they will be at the September meeting if you have anything to say directly to them.
Okay, let's entertain a motion.
Commissioner Umar, would you like to make the motion? If not, someone else can do it. That's totally fine.
I can absolutely make the motion on Commissioner Umar's behalf. Great. I motion that the full ANC take the committee's recommendation that we protest the new license application based on all applicable grounds, including the effect of peace, order, and quiet.
Is there a second? We have a second. I do have a community group of 5 that will also be protesting. This has been a problem location, and I think there's work to be done there with them. All those in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions. Motion passes. And Commissioner Bo, I can connect you with the lead for the group of 5s to get a better understanding.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next is Barcata Wine Bar. This is the establishment that's already there. They're seeking a substantial change to their license to add an entertainment endorsement, I believe indoors and outdoors. And the outdoor entertainment endorsement has surfaced a lot of community feedback. But I will let Commissioner Orlowski discuss a little bit more on that.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. Barcata is located on 12th Street, just south of U Street. It's in the space that used to be occupied by the frozen yogurt shop, Munchies, I can't remember exactly. It is the kind of place where most of the people we've spoken to are happy with it. They like that it's there and they want them to be successful. But what they're proposing to do is a little bit further than people want them to go. They are proposing to have periodic outdoor events that will involve amplified music or speech or something, amplified sound. We've heard from members of the community that are across the street in Commissioner Harris's SMD that have been clear that this is not acceptable to them. This has actually happened a few times. Barcata has had these events without permits. I verified this with one of their neighbors. It has happened before and wasn't allowed. This is not to be punitive, but we do have a direct, evidence that this is disruptive. And people in the community have been very vocal about it. And that's both on the opposite side of 12th Street and in the building they occupy. We've had some members of that community voice their concerns about this. We've spoken several times with the bar owners. They have not really offered a solution that would, mitigate those concerns. So at this point, they also were invited to our last ABR committee meeting and didn't attend. Several members of the community did attend. At that committee meeting, we voted to recommend a protest. And so I will be moving that the full ANC protest the substantial change application based on the grounds of effects to peace, order, and quiet, and all applicable grounds for Barcata Wine Bar.
Is there a second? We have a second. Discussion.
Yes,
I just have one.
I would like to note that a group of 5 has already filed their protest. So they are constituents in my SMD.
Great. I just have a question on the one abstention. Why did somebody abstain from Barcata in the committee?
It may have
I don't remember who
been,
it was.
Yeah, it may have been either they weren't present for the vote and Commissioner Bina took that as an abstention. It's unclear.
Okay.
They may have abstained. Actually, I think I remember who it was. They abstained because they joined the conversation later.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. Thank you.
Next, before we get to the next one, and I'm putting it in chat right now, if anyone has any issues with establishments that they'd like to raise to ABRA, you can file complaints. I'll put the link in the chat. You can complete their online form. They have several, they have 2 hotlines that you can call. One is for daytime hours, another is for nighttime hours. Since this establishment before had essentially violated their license, we hear the community's feedback, but it does make it hard when we do file kind of the protest and ABRA is seeking kind of evidence. It's helpful if they have kind of this evidence beforehand, which you could do by filing a complaint. Now that won't, hurt your protest or anything like that, but it's just helpful to gather that complete kind of context. But I'll put that information in the chat and you can file that with ABRA as you see fit. So the next item is Mavita, which is coming to the old Matchbox space at 1901 14th Street. They are seeking a fairly kind of traditional license. We are, the committee recommended that the ANC protest just to keep our standing. They are seeking indoor entertainment. They have a sidewalk cafe, which they will be presenting at the next Transportation Committee meeting, but we are doing it to keep our standing and to help create a settlement agreement, which the attorney that I'm working with is one that I've worked with in the past, and they are very open to that. So with that, since it's in my SMD, I move that the full ANC protest the new license application at 1901 14th Street on all applicable grounds, including the effect on peace, order, and quiet.
Is there a second? We have a second. Discussion? Are they asking for anything? Are they asking for anything different than what was there before? Anything new?
It's still up for determination. They said that Matchbox didn't or had entertainment, but from the neighbors nearby, they said that there was never, and even myself, there was never any entertainment inside.
Do you know why they didn't purchase the original license?
It's unclear.
That came up in conversation.
It expired.
Also.
Oh, it expired.
Okay.
It expired.
Okay.
Patrick saves the day.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in
We
favor?
have one more comment.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One more question for me. What are you seeking to get in a settlement from them?
It's really just a community agreement. We've done this with the new establishments on 14th. One that is opening Alice Bar. So I think it's always better to have these settlement agreements in place to, foster one, better community engagement, and two, to have documentation for the establishment itself.
It also provides another enforceable document in case of violations.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. I didn't know if there was something specific that you were going after or just more the general sense of things.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you.
So that's it on votes. The next meeting will be Wednesday, August 8th. Oh, no, we're not in August anymore. It is, I believe, September, that similar week. So it's the third week, the third Wednesday in September. So that is the 15th.
Thank you. Administrative items, we have a vacancy in 1B10. It has not been advertised in the DC Register. It may be advertised tomorrow or the following week. And once it's advertised, then candidates can pick up petitions, complete the petition process, go through certification of petitions. If there's more than one candidate, then we have a runoff at the ANC meeting, which will need, I believe, to be a live meeting. So we will know more once it gets published in the register. So we're looking at October, November, probably, to fill that vacancy. Hybrid meeting formats, Commissioner Harris.
Chair Turner, can I ask one question?
No.
Move on to that comment. What happens if something comes up in 1B10? Who will handle that?
They've been coming to me.
Okay, just wanted to know.
Don't bring anything up.
Okay, thanks.
The hybrid meeting format. So we are finalizing the survey that we mentioned at the last commission meeting. So we will have that up on the site. And we are absolutely seeking community input. As I mentioned during the public safety and community engagement updates on the neighborhood safety meeting for 14th Street, we tried a hybrid meeting format there. There were definitely some technical difficulties. So we, I think, would love to hear from the community on what you all are looking for, how you've navigated kind of these virtual meetings, you know, if you are excited to return in person or if you are concerned or anxious about anything, we want to hear it. So we will share that survey out, and we will also be seeking community feedback outside of digital channels too. So that's it.
Thank you. The council did approve virtual meetings until February. Depending on what the pandemic is, when we go into next year, you will know more about if it'll be extended or not, and what the meeting schedules will be. I do like the proposal of having the first meeting of each quarter in person and the others virtual, and allowing the committees to make their own decisions or follow ours. It gives us a little bit of opportunity to do the increased engagement we've been getting with virtual meetings, and also to be back out in the community as well, and gives us the ability to move around in the 1B geography.
I agree with that. I think though too, we should take advantage of the word hybrid. So if we are meeting in person, you know, is there an element that we can stream virtually? If we can work through some of the technical challenges, I think this is a good chance too for us to be very mindful and inclusive and even equitable on how we approach our commission meetings and committee meetings.
Okay, on the commission meetings, we all have to be virtual or in person. We can't have hybrids of commissioners.
Yeah. I meant for the community.
And we have done live streaming. We just didn't get the question piece of it. So I think we can work through that.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think that there could be an element of, if we, in the next bullet, are able to hire interns and an admin, maybe that a bullet is added to the admin's responsibilities of screening live questions that are coming in during meetings in person. So that could be something that we look at adding.
And if Treasurer Sanchez is willing to allocate costs for cameras for the in-person meetings. So we really got to do a good plan there.
I like it. Maybe just a tripod for a phone. But
Probably not. I think we could probably do something a little bit better.
Dream bigger, folks.
You're right.
Marketing and the applications.
So the job descriptions are up on anc1b.org for our marketing and neighborhood engagement interns. So you can view the descriptions there. And if you know anyone or you yourself would be interested in applying, the information to apply is also on the job description. We are also looking for an admin. So as you all are aware, we have the largest commission in DC, and it takes a lot of work to make this work and to run the commission. And as secretary, I definitely need some help. So this admin will be working closely with me and the other execs. We do have a former admin as commissioner, so she can chime in with any of her thoughts, but looking forward to seeing any applicants. If you have any questions on the job descriptions, you can email 1b@anc.dc.gov, or you can email me directly at 1b12@anc.dc.gov, and I'll put the email addresses in the chat.
Commissioner Luther, you have a question? Oh. I would like you to also reach out to Howard. We have two opportunities here in the DC public schools, the charter schools, and with the universities. They do have intern programs where they have people who work in the community for credit. We should explore those opportunities, especially now that people are back in school. So we may need to spread it a little more than we would normally do during out of school hours.
Yep. I think that's a great idea. I would encourage us to, if there is a college student and they can seek credit, I think we should also compensate them. As a former intern who was compensated via college credit, it wasn't actually compensation. I had to pay for my college credit. So I think we have the capacity to do both.
Okay.
You should reach out to Joe Leonard because that's part of his job description.
Yes.
I will absolutely do that.
Okay. Executive council member and community announcements, Office of the Mayor.
So both Anthony Moore, Office of the Mayor, and Oscar Montiel, Office of Councilmember Nadeau, were unable to join tonight. But I do see Miss LaToya Davenport, who's given updates at our meetings before. If we want to allow her to come off mute, I don't know if she's joining today just as an attendee, but perhaps she could give some updates.
That would be great.
Maybe I don't want to take someone off of mute that doesn't want to speak. So can we ask if she could raise her hand? Is she prepared to speak, or are we just assuming here?
I am assuming because she's given updates at our meetings prior many months in a row. So, but I can absolutely.
Because she also didn't reply to your chat that I see in here.
Okay, let's move on to commissioner announcements. And if she raises her hand, we'll cycle back.
Sounds good.
Commissioner announcements. Community announcements.
I just wanted to give a quick commissioner announcement that is kind of tied with community announcement that Patrick Nelson, who's chair of CPD committee, and I have been working with the construction company on 9th Street. So the back end of 9th Street. So if anyone is on here and has concerns or questions about timeline or what's happening with that back end of 9th Street, I have some answers for you. So hopefully we can get that information out. I'll be talking about that at the September 9th meeting as well. But we're working with them to make sure that parking enforcement is happening there, but also that signage is posted and it's clear where and when things will be happening in that small side street of 9th Street. And if Patrick has anything he wants to add, I would be sure to allow him to.
I would just add that it's a Howard property that's being developed as in one of our extractions that we did a couple of years ago, and it's in connection, commonly known for those who are working on it as the 930 Club site, and it is between 8th and 9th, and as Amanda said, we have had separate meetings. She had one, I had one. They're coming to the CPD meeting this month to give a description of what they're proposing. And I also recommended, and they have signed up to go to the transportation committee because they're doing some street work in conjunction with the Duke plan. So we're trying to keep on top of all of these moving parts that are happening at Howard. There's a lot of projects going on. So.
Thank you. Any community announcements?
There was one community member in the chat. I don't know if they are still here. I believe it might be a new business owner, and they asked, where they can kind of mention something about their business. This would be the place if you are still here. I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll up because it's beginning. I think Michelle Andrade. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. If you would like to speak, you can raise your hand. If not, totally fine. Oh, okay. Okay, you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute.
I think we can hear you, Michelle, if you.
You are off of mute. Is your microphone connected? Give it a couple more seconds. Oh, you're trying to fix your mic. Okay. We can give you a bit of time, but if not, you can also feel free to drop in your information and we can share it with the community as well too. Okay, maybe for the purpose of time, if you can just reach out to 1b@anc.dc.gov, or I believe Commissioner Farnan shared her email as well too, and we can include that in our newsletter or kind of other channels. But thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Commissioners, is there any new business? Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.